by Justin D. Fulton. He had written this back in 1888. Washington and the Lap of Rome. We are in chapter 5. Jesuits climb to power in Washington. Jesuits sue for the favor of the great and powerful. To obtain this, they decry faith in God, join in attacks on Rome, play the atheist or the infidel. Jesuitism permits its votary to do what pleases him. Submission to God is not in their creed. Jesuitism, in its practice, pays a premium on talent, on trickery, on cunning. It glories in subtlety. It is all things to all men. Falsehood, theft, murder, none of these things stand in its way. According to the Compendium publishing in published in Strasbourg in 1843, it is written as follows, quote, perjury. Should it be asked how far a man should be bound who has taken an oath in a false manner and for the purpose of deceiving, the answer is that in point of religion he is not bound at all, because he has not taken a true oath, but in point of justice he is bound to do that which he has sworn fictitiously in order to deceive, unquote. There is honor for the people in America. Robbery is permitted. Oh, I think that's one. I don't know, it looks like an I. One, robbery is permitted, and so is murder. Jesuitism is free to accomplish its designs. Among the wants of mankind may be reckoned an appetite for deception, a desire inherent in our depraved natures to bring to an agreement the claims of the deity with the indulgence of our frailties, a mild impatience for the conveniences and splendors of a religious structure in which the history of delusion may be enjoyed to the full. And most prodigally does the Romish Church minister to this demand. Ample and complete indeed was the apparatus which she provided for the accommodation of all the various passions and propensities of man. When the structure which she had reared had reached its perfection, it had a chamber for every natural faculty of the soul, an occupation for every energy of the natural spirit. She there permitted every extreme of abstemiousness and indulgence, fast and revelry, melancholy, abstraction and burning zeal, subtle acuteness and popular discourse, world renunciation and worldly ambition, embracing the arts and the sciences and the stores of ancient learning, adding antiquity and misrepresentation of all monuments of better times, and covering carefully with a venerable veil that only monument of better times which was able to expose the false ministry of the infinite superstition. It is needless to add that the sorcery which thus drugged the world was, from the first, most prodigally patronized by the vices and wants of human nature. In Washington, nothing is done by Romanists to frighten the most timid, nothing to waken people up, nothing to scare or alarm, and yet whoever enters Washington is met by this unseen influence. If he surrenders, he be president, department clerk, or minister of the gospel. There is peace. If he refuses to yield and stands for the liberties of the people, then there is a fight. The powers of hell are evoked. His path is blocked. His limbs are fettered. His words fall like lead and are no longer winged with power. This is known, and men who wish promotion recognize the truth and adjust their plans accordingly. Rome as a machine in politics is a success. The Pope is the church. Since 1870, the Jesuit rule the Pope. It is said that Leo the 13th thought himself to be Pope. The Jesuits thought differently. The Pope was poisoned. His agony was excruciating. A Jesuit approached him, told him the truth. You are poisoned. You have so long a time to live. If you surrender, the antidote is ready. He surrendered to Jesuitism and lives as their machine, to be worked in their interest, and as a foe of all that is ennobling and improving among men. Does that story seem incredible? It is, but a repetition of what has occurred again and again. Jesuitism, that has been banished from every country in Europe, finds in the United States a welcome and sphere for action. The cardinal and the mouthpiece and servant of the order. As a political machine, it is without a rival. It is not hindered by principle or even pretension. It does what it will pay to have done. It works for its own interest, first, last, and all the time. It helps the party that will do its behest blindly and without questioning. It delivers its goods. If it promises votes for reward, it gives the votes and expects the reward. Powerful at Washington, it is equally powerful outside. Offend the order at the seat of government, and a whispered word brings opposition from every quarter, if that be necessary, while it delivers a single blow with equal force and is feared everywhere because of its capabilities to work mischief in any given locality. In the days of slavery, it was the ally of despotism. It was supposed to be the sure ally of the Confederacy, or perhaps the attempt to draw out of the Union never had been made. What it could not do openly, it did in secret. The lovers of liberty not only overthrew slavery, but proved to Romanism that the cohorts of liberty are to be feared. Hence, Romanism withdrew from public gaze, and adopting the tactics of Uriah Heep, served that it might rule. The audaciousness of Rome is one equaled by its industry. It never tires. It is in league with all the forces of evil. 3/4 of the saloon keepers are Romanists. A politician of Cincinnati declared, "I would rather have the help of one saloon than of 5 churches." The probability is the churches could not be brought to the support of such a man. The saloons could. Rome runs them. They pay for it week after week. Sisters in the service of Rome visit them and obtain their weekly stipend, and bestow the blessing of the church on the infamous traffic. Rome climbs to power because it is joined to every form of evil, is in league with the enemy of all righteousness, and runs with the multitude in evil doing. To Rome, Satan said, "Fall down and worship me, and I will lift you to places of power and influence." The deed was done. The result has followed. Place, then, an organism that is utterly unscrupulous at the direction of a party that controls the press and the plug uglies, the pulpit and the penal class, that lays one hand on the homes of fashion and culture and the other on the tenement house, one on the baking office and the other on the workshop and factory, that marshals and the aspirants after power, and the class that only cries for gain, that steps upon the platform as advisor and into the caucus as director, that is at all times and everywhere capable of achieving results. And it is not strange that its power is evoked and that its behests are obeyed. Rome has climbed to power in Washington because men have forgotten country and God and served evil for the sake of gain. It has been said, quote, "The Inquisition is not only one of horrors of history, but one of its greatest lessons also. It is the greatest argument to prove that the only safety of nations is injustice and liberty," unquote. In a few years, Rome will become able to establish the Inquisition here, unless a speedy change for the better comes over the spirit of our people. When I looked upon the cells of solid masonry standing back to back in the cellar of a Catholic church in New Jersey, and noticed the size of them and that they were exactly such ones as are described in history, and human beings are walled up alive, I said to myself, who is to be walled up to die in there? I stood upon the wall of an unfinished church to take my observation. That wall was several feet thick. A woman was wheeling a baby carriage upon it, and she had plenty of room. Not the cry of 100 men could be heard through such a wall when finished. What do innocent churches want of such walls in a free country? Ah, the not distant future will tell if the Catholics become a considerable majority. Lord help us all. That kind of a cell is not confined to New Jersey. The cells and underground passages in the cellar of the Jesuit College in Washington would alarm the American people if they were not cased hardened and dead to reason. In one cellar beneath a Roman Catholic church is a cell in which is an iron cellar. It can be closed airtight. What horrid crimes have been committed there, God only knows. Rome is not changed in spirit or in purpose. She boasts of her intolerance and practices her inhumanity whenever she can. Let a member of Congress determine, because of public opinion and perhaps because of the interest. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Help me. Hold on. Intrinsic, I can't say that word. Intrinsic merits of a bill that obtains the approval of his judgment, and because he believes it will advance the interests of his continuancy, to refuse a vote to advance a scheme upon which Rome has set its heart, or to pass an appropriation bill in which Rome has an interest, and presto, he finds himself antagonized by a spirit that infects the air and confronts and destroys his influence. An unseen hand is found directing affairs at the nominating convention and manipulating ballots at the polls. Because of this, the power of Rome is dreaded and courted in Washington and throughout the country. Rome is well served. Cardinal, archbishops, priests, brothers, monks, nuns, sisters of charity and of the poor, these and an innumerable multitude beside do her bidding. They will tell the truth or a falsehood in accordance with the needs of Rome. They will cringe and crawl as beggars, or frown and threaten as masters. They will deceive the very elect. Paul describes them. They are lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness and denying the power thereof. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with divers lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. From such turn away. Beyond what are called the sacred orders, Rome has a vast continuancy which are being organized by the Jesuits into a great number of secret societies, and principal of which are the ancient order of Hibernians, Irish American Society, Knights of St. Patrick, Knights of the Red Branch, etc., etc. While it is said and believed there are 700,000 men enrolled under the name of the U.S. Volunteers, militia, and officered by some of the skillful generals and officers of the Republic. These are trained to antagonize the most sacred principles underlying the Constitution of the United States, such as the equality of every citizen before the law, liberty of conscience, independence of the civil from ecclesiastical power, freedom of worship, etc., etc. The United States have established schools where they invite the people to send their children that they may cultivate their intelligence and become good and useful citizens. The Church of Rome has publicly cursed all these schools and forbidden their children to attend them, under pain of excommunication in this world and damnation in the next. Not only does she antagonize our school system, claiming at the outset that it bore a religious character because the Bible found in it a welcome, but having been the cause for banishing the word of God, she pronounces the schools godless and sends forth the decree to have all her children housed in the parochial school, and then with an effrontery and inconsistency that is simply astonishing, she seeks to officer the schools of Protestants, so that in some of the public schools in which there is hardly a single Roman Catholic child, and where there is a parochial school in the immediate neighborhood, Rome, I'm so sorry, guys. Rome, through suffrage, obtains control of the school board in our large cities, and then fills the schools with Roman Catholic teachers to instruct the children of Protestants. In one such school are 41 teachers, 39 of whom are Roman Catholics. Just like I said in the last video, or the video before this. Was it the video before this? No, it was in number 4. It's true. The Constitution of the United States finds in the people the source of civil power. Rome proclaims this principle impious and heretical and claims that all governments must rest upon the foundations of the Catholic faith, with the Pope alone as the legitimate and infallible source and interpreter of the law. The Honorable Richard W. Thompson, late Secretary of the Navy, said, quote, "Nothing is plainer than that. If the principles of the Church of Rome prevail here, religious freedom is at an end. The two cannot exist together. They are in open and direct antagonism with the fundamental theory of our government everywhere," unquote. This statement would not convey any news to an intelligent and an instructed Romanist. The Roman Catholic Bishop Ryan, speaking in Philadelphia, recently said, quote, "We maintain that the Church of Rome is intolerant. That is, that she uses every means in her power to root out heresy, but her intolerance is the result of her infallibility. She alone has the right to be intolerant because she alone has the truth. The Church tolerates heretics when she is obliged to do so, but she hates them with a deadly hatred and uses all of her power to annihilate them. If ever the Catholics should become a considerable majority, which in time will surely be the case, then will religious freedoms in the Republic of the United States come to an end. Our enemies know how she treated heretics in the Middle Ages and how she treats them today, where she has the power. We no more think of denying these historic facts than to do of blaming the Holy God and the princes of the church for what they have thought fit to do," unquote. They are just absolutely downright wicked. This, though not a cheerful view, tells the truth and prepares us with renewed interest to study the proofs showing that Washington is in the lap of Rome, that we may better be prepared to understand the terrible tyranny they are exercised and the unscrupulous uses to which the results of this power is applied. And that ends chapter 5, brothers and sisters. Goodness gracious. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Your nose in the book, which is the Word of God. And embed the Word of God upon the tablets of your hearts, so you and I will not sin against God or be deceived.